Fuck. All right, we're rolling.
Planet B
Presents
Cult and Culture Podcast.
Episode 61 of the Cult and Culture Podcast. I'm Justin Pearson.
And I'm Luke Henshaw.
Okay, this one's pretty wild. Chuck Tingle, the author who writes erotica and horror, was down here for the last Comic-Con and swung by the studio.
The BO Fest?
What fest?
Body Odor Fest? The Comic-Con?
Is that what that is?
Have you ever walked through it?
Yeah, everyone
Pretty-
has it. Because everyone's wearing, like, fur or something.
Or they buy comics and not deodorant sticks.
Chuck showed up wearing his mask. And showed up here to this and left here with the mask. So like, in my brain, since I've like rekindled my friendship, I guess not rekindled, our friendship blossomed. I guess I figured out that I did know him pre-mask, and I did hang out with him once. Anyhow,
Do you know now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You figured
I'm
it
not
out?
gonna talk about it, but I figured out like when I met him, I figured out everything. Yeah, I know it. I know
Say
the
his
secret.
name. We'll bleep it out.
His name is Chuck Tingle is so rad. It's like kind of the weirdest shit I've ever come across because for the first time I ever heard of him, someone's like, "Yo, you got to check out this author that writes Sasquatch porn and dinosaur porn." And I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" Sounds great. So he's, and I say this in like the best way, but he's fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
And also I think those people that are able to be extremely bizarre, I think maybe we fit into that category, are able to connect with all kinds of disenfranchised human beings that need a community. And I think that he's definitely nailed something very unique. And he's just such a loving, kind, smart, righteous human being. So I was psyched that he was able to be on our podcast, coming down here and talk and stuff. It was so much fucking fun. Hilarious. So, if you read books, you should probably check his shit out because it's so fucking strange, but awesome. Yeah.
He's on a book tour right now, right?
I think it might be wrapped up.
Yeah.
But you should check it out, and if you don't, maybe you will want to, or maybe if you haven't checked it out, maybe you'll want to after you see this podcast because I love the dude. He's so awesome. So I think you will too after you see this. So here we go.
Right.
Okay, well, I am Chuck Tingle, the author of about 400 erotica shorts now these days.
Is it really 400?
It's getting close. It's enough that there's a buckaroo who did a thing like a Tingler a day for 365 days, a whole year, read one of my books and wrote a review on it, and had stuff left over to like be like, so there were a few left off after reading a book a day. So I do think it's getting close to 400. I think it says a lot of just the fact that that I don't know. At that point, you're like, okay, that's kind of a lot. If even the author is like, I'm not really sure anymore. And then, so I'm known for that. And then horror novels that I put out through Tor Nightfire that are like queer horror. Newest one is called Lucky Day. And then also, We Are Buds. I'm going to say we were discussing how to talk about this, and I will say possibly Buds on another timeline. Who knows? But on this timeline, you let me use a Locust song for my Camp Damascus book trailer a couple years ago. And I mean, I am just a huge fan of all the art that you create, and it's so we're just like we're buds on multiple timelines, maybe swirling around each other, and it's so good to be here. I'm thrilled.
We're glad to have you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we did the panel 2 years ago with
with trauma.
Year.
Yeah,
was it last 2?
No,
I think
okay.
it was time is
it is bizarre.
I don't know if this is an aging thing or what, but I have found time to be more and more malleable every day that goes by.
Yeah.
That does not feel like just last year, but I think it was.
Yeah. God damn. Okay, so I don't even like today I was like, where are we gonna even fucking start? It's crazy. There's so many things. The fact that you wrote these certain types of books or pieces, and then you switched and were like, I'm gonna just do like, you called it queer horror.
Yes.
Which is like, is that a new genre, or has it always kind of been like now it's like a real genre, right?
Yes, I think that there has always been, actually here's a thread to connect them all.
Okay.
I think that queerness and camp and horror and punk are all kind of I see them personally, and none of these are monoliths, right? Like, I don't want to speak for everyone, but they are kind of related in some way. And I think maybe that's why we get along, is that there's like a thing that connects those worlds of like finding confidence in the thing that makes you stick out from the group, and instead of seeing that as a weakness, harnessing that as like a power source, and kind of like getting off, for lack of a better word, but like getting off on the feeling of being an outsider. Whereas I think so many people, like, that presses them down. If you can make that twist and be like, that makes me feel awesome, and cranking that up, for camp, for punk, for these different things. So that's why I think we get along. But queerness has been in horror. I think there's a bit of a renaissance of it lately. But like, there are so many old horror movies where the subtext is like very strong.
Yeah.
Those are queer movies. But I think it's more like on the surface now, where people are recognizing it as like a genre.
Yeah, they were giving like a shout out to, what was it, Nightmare on Elm Street? Two, yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, well, that's crazy. And as a kid, when I saw it, it didn't even,
Yeah.
I didn't even like, I was like, whatever, that's cool.
Yes. Well, there was a documentary about that.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So I watched that too. It's amazing. And I agree. When I first watched it, I knew there was something there, but I don't think I like connected the dots. And then when I watched that documentary, I was like, oh yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's, even the basic stuff like punk or any kind of like sort of art form that surrounds it, I think about all the icons. Like, I mean, obviously punk was like, it was a safer space for me, or something that like brought me in. But I think about like, I don't know, like even seeing like John Waters films and stuff, it was like, oh, this feels, I don't want to use the word like comfortable or natural, but I felt connected to it.
Interesting. Yes.
And without knowing even like what any kind of social politics were, or I was just like, I don't know, that's cool, opposed to the other stuff.
Yes. Oh, I agree. And I know, I read your book. I blurbed your book.
Yeah.
And you do talk about John in that as well. And it's like, I do think if people don't understand, like, if I say this thing like, well, I think that like punk and queerness and stuff that and camp, that there is that thing like, oh, I don't know, what do you like, John Waters, that is the thing. Like, look at where he exists in culture. That's the intersection of those things. Like, it's the perfect example, right? And even when I think about like, what would I like to represent in this era, my dream, and I won't say that I'm there yet, but if it's like, who could be the hero that I look for? I have other influences, but like culturally, if I could somehow exist in that realm, like where he was, where like Paul Rubens was, that type of thing that was so punk, and it's like no one noticed at the time, and now in retrospect, we're looking back and be like, that queer punk spirit has always been there. It was just kind of like creeping its way through these icons.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I don't want to riff too much on like punk, because I think it's been kind of bastardized. Like, I always tell people like there's punk and there's punk rock, and punk rock is pretty dumb. I think punk can be like anything. Like, we work with a local farmer here, one of our sponsors, and I think that they're very punk in the sense that like what they're doing, like, not like that they're anti-capitalist, but like, they have this angle, and they want to support like people of color and disenfranchised communities, or like they'll do things that I feel are like essentially punk. So when I so I think that, again, like going back to like the shout out to Paul Rubens and John Waters, those were like the thing. Like, Pee Wee Herman was fucking so informative for me as a child, and
me
even
too.
now, without knowing. But even, so like I see you, and you look like you should be in a punk band, like you definitely do.
Well, you know what? You have a lot of you have a lot of bands. And if you ever need old Chuck to jump on a little Chuck Tingle feature, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's a thing. Even when I bring all my outfits to Comic-Con, I thought, okay, I got to do the leopard print. Although this is a little more like maybe Chuck does Motley Crue kind of thing, like a slightly different. But still, yeah, I think I've just always gravitated towards that. I actually, if I may, trotting around San Diego this weekend, beautiful, right? I mean, this is an amazing place. What do you think it is that created the hardcore scene here? I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but it's like, it is such an interesting place to have such like visceral, dissonant aesthetics. Is it because it's kind of like the opposite of the sunshine and all the bros on the beach? Like, what do you think it is? Do you know?
My thought is that it's a military city and it's very conservative because it's a border town. So we have there's a lot of conservativeness here, especially, and also in the 90s, there was a huge influx of white power bullshit. Like, we were really close to Fallbrook, so we had a lot of like Tom Metzger's White and Resistance. So there was like this insane amount of, I guess, like negative and like big obvious bigotry and like oppression. So there, and also it's a tourist city, so the city's like geared or like wired for helping that sort of industry. So it wasn't like, hey, let's let the local folks have this platform for art or creativity or whatever. So we were always like, growing up, we were trying to like make sense of nothing. So like, I mean, the fact that like Luke's in a cumbia band, Sonido de la Frontera, who is on 31G alongside with like, thrash bands like, Stress Positions or something. And so it's like, and that makes sense to us. That is like very much a 31G thing, but also like a San Diego thing. Because growing up, it was like we would go to shows and be like, there's a hardcore band and there's a 3-piece jazz band, and we're gonna have like spaghetti or like whatever, like it just whatever kind of thing went. And I think that's an important part of San Diego, because the fact that we didn't have like, you're this kind of music, you're over here, you're like, we all just kind of like intertwined. And then you get like weird shit, Crash Worship or Drive Like Jehu or Unbroken or whatever. You get like these weird things that are I don't know, like unique. I don't want to say like cutting edge, but like unique in themselves, but it happens everywhere. Like we see that with other artists all over the world.
Yes.
But San Diego, I think, has that because it's conservative.
Interesting. You mentioned like the difference between like punk and punk rock, which is kind of like, at this point, it's like, what even is that? But what's interesting specifically about the San Diego scene, and the scene that, you've kind of, I will compliment you, really been a big part of, obviously, is actually like kind of what I think punk rock should be, and not necessarily what it represents now. But your example of these different genres coming together, it's like something about this place or the people in this place has managed to, like, as punk rock has evolved away from what it kind of initially was, this place still feels like a last bastion of like what I feel like it represents. It's fascinating. I don't know. It's amazing.
That's an interesting viewpoint from a person that doesn't live here.
Yeah. I mean, as an outsider, I come here and I think like maybe it's like Los Angeles. I feel like someone with my kind of like punk aesthetic or mindset or anything shouldn't like that city, but all the things that are kind of like people don't think, like the weirdness of LA is so punk to me. Like I really love being there because it's so strange and the things, and I kind of get that here where I was trotting around on the beaches and stuff, just thinking about like, popping in my headphones and listening to the Locust, and it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and people having a good time in the sun with their snow cones. I thought there is something to that. I don't know. It's just, there's something there.
Growing up, I always thought it was a trip where like someone would point out like, hey, these are people of color, or these are women, or these people are queer, and I'm like, oh, I mean, that's cool. I wasn't like, that wasn't my, I didn't like need to play the race card, or what I'm saying, like I thought like whatever, like we're all just here doing the thing, and so then it was kind of like brought to our attention, like, whoa, it is a pretty diverse. It never diverse enough. It never accepted enough.
Sense.
But that was always like a thing. Like all my friends, I was like, oh yeah, you guys are all like all my Latinx friends were just there being in bands. But it wasn't that I looked at them as like people of color. I just looked at them as like, we're just gonna play in a band, or you're just gonna do the thing and I'll do the thing. And but now that it's like.
Because you're in the middle of it.
Yeah. Also, like that might be like white privilege because I don't have to address that. Where like if I was a disenfranchised person in some sort, like I'd have to kind of acknowledge that more.
I think what you're touching on that is interesting, because you would see this in a place like with another, like I would say still pretty vibrant punk scene would be like New York City or something like that. These are places where there is an equal, it's not like a super liberal or super conservative. It is actually kind of like just, you have this melting pot of like all of these things smashed together in the same place. Actually, like there is the conservative thing here, but like you said, being on the border, you're going to have like all different like races and like, obviously queer buckaroos pop in everywhere. And that's kind of what I think about like queerness, and part of the inherent like punk that I feel in queerness is that, there's all these different groups of people, and I can't comment on the ones that I'm not a part of. So I don't say this to like kind of disparage any of the other experiences at all. I'm purely talking about the queer experience here. But if you look at queerness as like a marginalized group, you can have your family, and suddenly in your own family, a queer buckaroo just shows up, is just born into it. Whereas there's these other groups where it's like you're going to kind of be born into a family that you're similar to, and then the battle that you're having is maybe within your family and the community that, like the neighborhood that you're in, maybe it's like you're sticking out there. I think the thing that feels very punk about queerness to me is you're just dropped into the middle of it. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter where. There's just suddenly a queer person in a family that could be bigoted or whatever. And so there's like a scrappiness there that's like very like, we are not fighting in like a regimented lines, we are like in a skirmish kind of thing with queerness. And so I do think that there's something there that maybe that's where the punk thing comes in, is there's just this ability to like kind of just like you're dropped into it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point, because I remember I was working at this place when I was in my early 20s, and there was this queer couple that worked there, and they were very conservative and racist, and I was there. Yeah, and I was like, and it was the first time I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, you guys are queer and you're racist, and I couldn't. I was just like assuming that everybody that was queer would be like on the level, same level, whatever. And I was like, you guys are fucking lame.
This?
Is it? I don't want to say where it was. I don't want to say where it was.
Well, that's like, I mean, that issue obviously is like, no matter what, like logically can happen, there is still the ultimate issue is empathy, right? Which is why we want to be here. Why art is so important. Why? I mean, we all make art for different reasons. You guys are like artists at the core. You are creators, right? And I guess we're all creating things, but some of us know it more than others. I think everyone's a creator, but some of us are like, that is our calling, is to put it out there and stuff. And I think that ultimately, regardless of our motivation, we are creating empathy. And that's ultimately what it is like you're making these, when I'm writing a story, it's like someone can read this, and your brain is hopefully going through the experience that you haven't had before. And then when you come away from it, regardless of the lesson you learned or if you liked it or didn't like it, hopefully there's a spark of empathy.
That's such an important point. Okay, so, and not to change this too much,
please.
but I read somewhere that I have not read all 400-ish of your stuff, but it's saying that like and maybe I'm wrong, but like they all have this like positive, like sort of.
They are very positive.
Yeah,
yes.
which is, for me as an artist, is insanely hard to do. And so, but I think that it's so cool. Like even the Love Is Real, I guess that's like your moniker or something.
Yeah,
like
I mean, it's like it is, and I can explain that. It's like I come at art thinking about like what is my motivation? I don't know if you do this when you're like sitting down to write a song, if you're like, oh, I'm angry, I'm whatever. Some people just kind of like write in a utilitarian sense where they're like, it's another day, I'm making a song, you know? And I'm kind of that way with books, but ultimately I do think that we have these kernels of motivation. And what I have found is that in all of the universe, the one thing, like philosophically, if I'm going to try to break it all down, of what matters, it does always come back to love. And I find that sometimes people will say that and it's kind of like a toxic positivity thing. Like, we're like, well, really, is it that? For me, it is, and I find there to be a bit of an illusion that it's not, that are perpetrated by people that I don't like. Like the sort of manosphere, sort of like, I need to be bigger and stronger and more violent, that someone like, like Jordan Peterson or something like that all of existence is survival of the fittest. I think that there is some of that, obviously, but ultimately, if you look at nature, I think that people like that focus way too much on like the story of like the biggest lion gets the gazelle, when in reality, if you kind of zoom out and look at what nature really is like, actually the communities that are better communities that work together more are actually the ones that survive. I mean, for better or worse, human beings have taken over the entire world. And the thing that separates us, yes, we're pretty aggressive and violent, but so are apes, so are lions and stuff. Really what separates us is that we built communities, that we had tribes, that we made art together, that we learned to love each other instead of just kill each other all the time, which we still do. Yeah. But that's kind of the differentiator. And so ultimately, I think like the whole universe is pushing us towards love, and we do a lot of work to kind of like take these detours and stuff, but ultimately, as far as like if I'm going to be creating with something as a piece of fuel, I want it to be that power, because when I look at the universe, I'm like, that's the inertia of all things, is to find community, to fall in love with someone, to either, sometimes it's like even biology will drive us to make children, to procreate, to like fill this space with more joy. Even if you're not interested in that, it'll drive you to make a record, to like express yourself and fill that void. I see all of that as an expression of love. And so my advice, I try to not give advice to artists because we all have different paths, right? But if I was going to give one, I'm like, just try coming at it from a place of love, even if it's like let's use a song as an example. If it's an angry song, you don't even have to change your lyrics. Don't even change. But when you go into that vocal booth and you're gonna say those words, instead of being like, I hate this person so much, think, I love the people that this person hurts so much.
Fuck yeah.
And I think that will make your art resonate. And that's kind of the only piece of advice I can give. And it's, I write it on my forehead, you know?
Well, so like the negative isn't always really negative in a sense, because so I always like go back to this thing, like the opposite of love is not hate, it's apathy. So like, I think hate is not like this bad thing that is not serving humanity or whatever.
I understand. I agree.
I also feel like the sort of like whitewashed version of like love everybody, like we see that a lot, like in like, I don't know, like the yoga community, and I'm like, I can't love these fucking bigots, like the pigs or these rapists, whatever. Like, it's hard. Like, I'm like, no, I don't want to like serve them. I want to like lift up the people that are oppressed.
And I agree, yeah. And that's why it's love is real.
But you had touched upon empathy, which is like synonymous with love, I would say.
I think it's like there is a lot of, like you were saying, like there's a toxic positivity that when you start talking about love, people seem to think that just means like getting bowled over. Love has the branding of love is not great. It's kind of meek, honestly. And I think of it as like a strong, powerful thing. And I think that like the more that we can see it that way, the better it is, because you are right. There is this tendency to say like, here's the perfect example. Someone in an abusive relationship, right? They might hear me talking about love, hear anyone talking about love and be like, you know what, this person hit me, but I should forgive them because that's love, and love conquers all. What I try to make a point to say is, no, you should love yourself. The way that we've branded like love as this ultimate thing that says, let bigots walk all over you. Let whoever be passive. I like to think of like the act of love as an active thing. It's a battle that we are in. And so you're right. And like I was like, that's why it's love is real. It exists. That's enough for me. If I was to say like, choose love every time, I wouldn't agree with that, because it's, it's just it existing out there as a force in the universe, I think is so powerful. You kind of don't need the other stuff. You're just like, hey, you know what these bigots are doing? They're making it harder for other people to love. And sometimes I need to stand up to that.
Yes.
Love can be protest. It can be, love can be throwing a brick through a window sometimes.
Yeah.
Stonewall was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was an act of love. And I really, maybe that's my connection to punk too, is it bothers me sometimes when love is just, people think of it as just this like weak, passive thing. It's like, it's beautiful and powerful and it resonates with the entire timeline around us. It's like, I don't know. So that's a great point. And I hope the more I read my books, that I can talk or different things, that they can get that out of it, is thinking, no, maybe proving love is going to be to say no. Love isn't just saying yes all the time.
Well, and I guess that's a good example, because we see this right now, like the people that have power usually will hate downwards. So they'll instigate that, like, oh, hate these other people, and then you guys can all just go fuck yourselves into an oblivion. We see that with billionaires. This is like a thing that's pretty frequently explored, obviously, in time. So that, I think that's something that's like really, really important to, it ties into with what you're saying. So with that being said, like, what about you have this crazy element of like trolling like right-wing people.
Yes,
and
I
so
do.
that is something that I love and appreciate and can relate to. And I'm like, oh, that's not that. I'm like, all the writing is great, but like these like sort of like fuck you antics but like subversiveness, like, and I don't want to bring up like even like recently the new South Park episode, which is like probably the best thing I've seen in a long time, but like you kind of have that like ability to do that, to fuck with people, and I think that is love.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Well, that is taking action, right? Like there's a couple of things I talk about. Love being real, I do think is enough. Like the fact internally, I see the inertia of the universe and it is towards love, and that's powerful. But I also talk about proving love a lot, which is an active statement, right? It is like, what are you going to do today to prove love? I think when you get into like religion a lot, like look at it this way. I am not a religious buckaroo. I never have been. And what kind of drives me nuts is the idea with, and I will just use Christianity because I know it better, but I do think this is like most religions are like this. The idea that we should do good because we are going to be rewarded, that we will be judged at the pearly gates, and that there's a God up there saying, you need to act this way because then you will receive a gift, never sat right with me. And when people say things like, well, how do you know what's right or wrong? I just think, no, there is an inert good within myself that doesn't need the judgment. And so I do believe like proving love, to say love exists, and I am going to, instead of choosing to like put more love into the world because I'm going to get something in return, I'm just going to prove it. I'm going to wake up today and say, how can I give more than I take? Not because I'm going to be judged for it, not because of anything else, but because that's what I want to do. And I think that there's so much more reward in that than waking up and saying like, oh, I have to do this. It's so much more powerful if we get to make this active choice. And so doing this sort of performance art kind of thing, I mean, obviously anyone watching this can see that I'm wearing something rather unusual. And that's just part of the performance of saying like, okay, wonderful to prove love through art. And also, if you can, really wonderful to prove love by like getting out there and doing something. You know, I don't know. I think there's something there to being active.
I love when the Christians are like, oh, if there's no God, then we can just go murder and rape people. It's like, fucking really? Like, you really have that in you?
Yeah.
It's terrifying. Part of me thinks too that as human beings, because I do hear that, and I think I'm like, do you know what you're saying? Like, and sometimes I wonder. It's like I start to doubt them because I'm like, I just think you're repeating. I maybe have more faith in humanity than most of you, because I'm like, I think you've been told this. You've seen a sermon for this so many times, and you don't know what you're saying. Because that's a talking point of theirs that's like terrible. And you hear it over and over again, and I just think you've heard this in a sermon like 8 times, and you just you haven't thought about it, which is maybe equally... not equally bad, but it's bad as well. Sure.
I think I always have this problem with like people. I guess like the 2-tier voting system is an example where like this last election was like you have to vote for Kamala Harris if you're opposed to Donald Trump. But like I think why do I have to settle for these two? One's fucking terrible and one's terrible. Why do I have to settle for those? Why can't I settle for something that's like, I want to. My candidate is going to be the candidate that votes for peace. Mine's the one that will like actually lift up everybody, not like support the pigs or deport people or whatever. Because let's face it, I mean, like people reference like the Obama administration, who was like the chief and whatever they called him, chief deporter of like and it's like but like I feel like maybe people kind of there's this quote like that I reference a lot, like when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask to see the upstairs, because like, why do we have to have this concept of this thing? Because we've made it up. We can make up something better, and we can achieve that better thing. If we try.
And that takes that does take action. That also takes art. I will say it takes both. I feel like I'm sitting here being like, forget about art. You got to go out there and do it, which is important. But I also think like something to keep in mind is that art like does create social change. It sounds very like kind of ignorant to say, but if you actually look at like, I mean, queerness is a great example. Like the gay marriage, laws, right? That was a very difficult, hard-fought battle, and then suddenly there's this, thing where across the country, gay marriage is legal for everyone. You could look at that and say, like, well, that was the point, that everything changed through action and law and voting. Really, that wasn't changed by someone saying something. That was changed by like TV shows having gay characters. Sure. That moms in middle America were like, oh, okay. And as much as it kind of like is not fun to think, why do I have to be the one that educates all these people that don't, do they deserve it? What, it's easy to be bitter about that. But I do think that there is a place for art, because like changing the culture does actually affect, like in concrete ways, laws and just like concrete action, donations, different things. So I always try to make sure that I don't come down too hard on one or the other, because praxis is very important, obviously, but it also doesn't mean that like it's not informed by creating culture, by creating spaces. Great example, the hardcore scene that has been built here. Think about like if you were to go back and be like, well, you're just doing like you're just making art. Like that's not going to do anything. But now there are, to this day, people growing up listening to these bands that are going to like, let's say vote a certain way, but also like maybe run as a candidate, maybe run as like a leftist candidate, and like these things come through through everything. It's like a holistic approach that I just want to make sure Buckaroos know that it's not one or the other. You got to kind of do everything.
But it's kind of, I mean, there's probably a better example, but like Beto O'Rourke was like, you're like, whoa, that guy's into hardcore like that, and he's like up there like running for like as a political candidate. Yes, that was a strange thing to kind of see happen in our timeline. Yes. I wasn't really expecting that. But the art thing is kind of interesting, because I'll see people like at your book readings or like people that will meet you, and the way they react and it gives them like strength and hope, because there's something that I get too, like in retrospect, was really bizarre. Like people will come up to me now, the Locust is no longer, but they'll say like, hey, I saw the Locust as a 16-year-old trans kid, and you saved my life. And I'm like, what? Like I didn't.
Yes.
That wasn't my objective. So like when you wake up and you like go like, I'm gonna do this thing today. Like maybe your thing is like to write a really cool piece, but you as an artist, as a performer, is this thing that's gonna translate to saving someone's life.
Yeah.
And that's fucking crazy to think about, because as artists, we're not like thinking like, what can I do to save someone's life? We're just like, I want to create this thing that's rooted in love, that's intellectually, profound to some extent,
Yes.
and then give it to the world, and then something will happen.
Yes.
So,
And it's happening every day. And I kind of hinted at this earlier, like everyone is a creator in that sense. I think that art, we really have been trained to like make art, you're in a band, or you're playing violin, or you're an actor on stage, or like there's these art forms that we have about eight or nine of them that we all agree that's valid art. But honestly, I think that like art is, if someone is raising their kid and they're making them a PB&J, that is art. That is a valid piece of art, just as much as any book that I've written or song that you've written, or the Mona Lisa. Like it is all art is subjective. That is important. That is an act of creation that's filling us with love, and you are producing that all the time, all the way down to like if you take a walk, that is art. That is an art piece for yourself. It is performance. It is movement. If your heart is beating, if you are alive, you are like putting off waves of creation. And so I think that the story, right, of the musician who someone comes to them and says, your song saved my life, it is beautiful and it is wonderful. And as creators, we know this. And if I could wish anything, it was that people who are not like actively thinking of themselves as creators, for them to realize not only are you creators, but that story of that person coming back and being like, this saved my life. You're doing that all the time.
Yeah.
You're doing that by literally making your child a sandwich in the morning. Like that is the same thing. And people don't really realize it. I don't know. I hope that they will. I'm talking to you right now. You're proving love just by whatever, you're putting out into the world.
The child thing's interesting. We don't have kids, but I always like my comrades that are like, sorry, he does have it's crazy. He does have a kid, which is, okay, this is a good example. His son is such, like, I don't look at him as like I look at him as like another comrade, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I meant like little kids, but like, cause people like my age that I see with children right now they have infants that they're raising, and they're like, I'm like, that is our future. They're going to be the ones that are going to hopefully go on to do whatever. They can create the thing that hasn't been created. They're going to stop, climate change or whatever, something like that. And I think that's really, really important. So I think that like, that is a work of art. When like a good example is his son, Luke. When I see him, I feel like it's crazy, because I'm going to hype Luke for a second, but like, he's such a talented musician. And I am like, how did that, well, the apple fell far from the tree in certain ways, but in the musician, the art world, yes. I'm like, man, he's such an intellect, and he has so much depth to his personality, and that is such a hopeful thing. But I think it took like-minded people to create offspring that are able to be articulate, and
oh yeah.
But on the flip side to that, I think there are the terrible human beings that create children that have nothing, and those children have to find a way to sustain themselves and also to shine and motivate or like, I guess, shift the narrative of what we were dealing with.
Yes. Yeah. So, well, I'm going to give you a very personal example of this chain of inspiration. I, growing up as a young buckaroo, I feel like we are always told, with storytelling, with anything, that art is just kind of the medium, right? Like you listen to a song and the art of the song is just the minute and 30 seconds. If it's a Locust song, 50 seconds sometimes. But, it's like, it's the length of that song. It's the notes. It's whatever. That's the art. If you write a book, it's you have your book, and it's whatever in between those pages. And probably the most important thing as an artist that I ever learned or realized was that it's not just that. That if you use painting as an example, it's not just the painting, it's what frame you put it in, it's the gallery that it's hung in. And I mean this in a literal sense and metaphorical. It's what you ate on the way to the museum to see the painting. And if it disagrees with your stomach, you're going to see that painting and it's a different painting. So art is like this collaborative process between creator and audience, and who that is shifts around. And like, there's so much beauty in that that's left unexplored. There's so many painters that don't realize, like, hey, here's my painting, and I'm going to go to the gallery and say, you can only hang this in like the farthest room and keep the lights off or something. Like, there's all this other type of art. We were talking about performance. The thing that taught me that, there were a couple authors, there were a couple of things, and sorry to do this to you, the Locust really taught me about that, because and you might think, oh, the mask thing, right? We should definitely get into that. But for me, what I think is so powerful and what really resonated with me was to put on that was it Plague Soundscape? I'm not sure which was the first record I got, but to put that on and think, okay, I'm so used to songs giving me this feeling from point A to point B of like a story that makes me feel happy or makes me feel sad. And to have a piece of art that's like, this is going to make you feel uncomfortable for this many seconds. And that is totally valid, right? Like, I think that there were a couple of examples of that. And so, no joke, I'm not just saying that. And why I was so excited to come here is those connections from the past to the future, the influence. You said that, you don't have biological children, but you have this creation that created me being like, really, if you go back and follow that chain, we might still be here, but my mask might be like, there's just something about me sitting here that is directly related to me having that realization from something that you created to be like, art can be more than just this story that we've heard. It can make you feel uncomfortable. It can make you feel a different way. I don't know.
Well, or maybe it shouldn't be like fun, like this is fun, blah, and like one dimensional.
Yes.
It could be, like super righteous and you want to do the thing. Like, I don't, like, it's not like it's the word fun. It just seems so, I don't know, obvious, I guess. Like when I would, we can tie our things back to Pee Wee Herman,
Yes.
and like, yes, that was very fun. But when I would watch that, I would kind of scratch my head and wonder, like, how do I get into that world? It wasn't like, yes, fun, blah, because once that TV show ended, I still had to deal with like domestic violence at home or like, being bullied at school, whatever. So like I wanted to try to figure out, it was an escape, but there was more to it. And I think maybe a great example is listening to a record or reading one of your books, or even seeing your performance aspect. Like, it is something that's fun, but also empowering. Inspiring. And I think that's a really important thing. And again, like, you don't wake up and you're like, I'm gonna be fun, inspiring, and you just get up and you do a thing and it has a reaction, and I think that's cool.
Yes. And for you to use Pee Wee Herman, then to you, and then to you, to me. And it's like, what's amazing is that that's not going to end. So you were, it's like we can all kind of like trip out on like, oh, we made this piece of art and it saved this person's life. But we generally, like, the story kind of like, the anecdote ends there. And what we never really think about that's so beautiful is that person that is now alive because of that, they're going to make their own art. They're going to create their own. It's not like a 1 point thing. It's not even a chain. It's like a web. Yeah. It spreads out, and every time it gets bigger and bigger with this inertia. And
can go so much further away from like writing a book or making a song. It can go to this other realm.
It can be
something,
anything.
Maybe
something that we'll never know. This conversation will not even probably. There's more than one listener. Like, someone's going to listen to this, and whatever they do next is going to change because of what we're doing right now. And that's like, what a profound opportunity that we could just say, like, I could just say right now, hey, do something really good for yourself today. Like, love yourself right now. If you're listening to this and you're like, you know what? I actually kind of want to go, I was feeling going for a walk, and I felt kind of, I'm just going to say, you know what? Treat yourself. Go for the walk. Me just saying that right now is going to literally change not just one world, but thousands. And it's not just because I'm me. Everyone has that power every day. And it's like we forget about it all the time. It's easy when the world is this chaotic and messed up to forget how much power we have. I don't know.
Well, I like the example of the walk, because I do a lot of running, and I get like this high.
It's a good one. When
I get there, I like just start creating patterns with like the sidewalk or like this brown fence, and like seeing how people paint their thing. I'm always in this feeling of like where you're at right now, you're never going to be like, this run is never going to be the same. The way these two cars have passed, those two cars are never going to cross paths the same way. And it just creates this fucking great feeling where nothing else exists.
And that's just being present, right? It's like, it's so beautiful. It's
like you'll never hear that song again.
No, yes.
Wow.
And you're like connecting with your body in that way, I think is like, I like to walk too. I don't run. I used to, I should. But like every day I do my trot up the hill when I'm working on books. Every morning I wake up and I do like an hour-long loop, and I do the same thing of like, getting your body going is like a great way to feel present. And it also kind of starts to make you realize like, oh, wow, some of these like bad feelings that I had are maybe like chemical, it's like your body starts going, and well, you're doing yoga it's like you can start to feel it, and you're like, oh, okay, we are actually at the mercy of our brain and like what's going on in there. And there's ways that you can just kind of like get up and shift that. I don't know. Or push through it, because, okay, I'm so sorry, but speaking of the Locust and mask stuff and body stuff, I'm finishing up a weekend at Comic-Con. This is so hot. It is unbelievable that what I go through for this. But what's interesting about it, same as like a run, so much of what I do has like and talk about and everything is about being present, about finding gratitude. And what I have found is that for as unpleasant as like and sweaty and hot as my mask can get, I almost prefer it. I kind of prefer having that bit of like pain to push through to find. It makes finding gratitude so much easier, because every time I do a panel, every time I have a book event, I have to stand outside the door and I say like, I'm uncomfortable, and that is fine, and I'm going to focus up and be present, and this is going to be, I might forget this moment, but there's someone out there that they're going to remember this forever because I signed their book or whatever, and this is going to be the most important moment of my life, and I'm actively doing that, not just like letting it happen. I'm actively saying, be present, this is important. And there's a physical thing there and a physical like discomfort thing there. There's like a pain thing there. That thing is related to running, but I also think, I don't know, did you feel that like with the Locust with your outfits? Because that was, you didn't have to do that, like
the outfit thing's one thing, but I do think like maybe with running and definitely with playing music, where like for me, because like, I don't know, I don't run. This guy's crazy. He'll do like fucking 13 miles and be like, whatever.
That's awesome.
I can barely get a mile, but
yes.
but you transition somewhere else. So like, I'll go on a stage, and like, I don't get nervous necessarily. I have like anxiety and stuff, but like once that first snare hit happens, it sort of becomes like irrational, and I'm not thinking of like, what's the next lyric, or what is this the right key, or like who's doing, it just happens.
Yeah, who's watching me
organically. Yeah. Yes. And I think that just kind of goes out into a thing. So I think like that's really important to not be, because so there's a clip I watched of you where you're about to go on stage at an event, and they're like filming you, and you're like, and you I could sense it. You're like, all right, and you're getting ready, and then you run out, and you're like, and you like there's like a switch kind of like,
yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like, here I am, and no one's like thinking like, is he sweating? Is he uncomfortable? Is he physically or mentally uncomfortable?
Nobody
He's just
knows.
like ripping,
Yes.
but you're not even thinking that. You're just like, I'm out here. What's up?
Yes.
And like you're kind of doing your thing. And I
am thinking it before. And that's what that process is.
But
that's
that 1 second when you start to run into the crowd, that's
Yeah.
like, there it is.
Then and what's interesting too is like there's a lot of mystery about who's under the mask, and I do everything in my power to keep that very under wraps. But one thing that I have said before is that I may or may not have more experience as a performer than most authors.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that the author, like just that world, as far as any like notable person, is probably the least performy of anything, whether it's like an actor or a musician or anything like that. Even like a chef, there's like so much more like you're there that day and you've got to like be physical in the kitchen and everything. Writer is like just the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And so I do stick out in the sense that you know, it's been a thing with my publisher where like I don't really like readings. Like my things are like I do a show and I have like it's basically like a one-man show with like a big presentation and stuff, and so there is that thing that I am grateful for, that I am just capable of doing, that I think has been a surprise for my publisher to get me into these book deals. And suddenly I'm like, okay, well, the way I'm going to do the book tour is I'm not going to do any talks, and we need to rent out theaters and we're going to do the show. And the first year they were like, I don't know about that. And then they saw what happened at bookstores, and it was kind of a mess. And they're like, okay, maybe we need to listen to Chuck, and it gets bigger and bigger. But it is, I feel blessed that I can flip that switch that you're talking about.
That's fucking crazy, because I feel like maybe you're drawing from like the thing that we were talking about with like San Diego or something, where it's like, well, we have all these like we have knowledge of this other kind of music. We're going to mix these two things. So you're like, I'm going to do this thing that like, cause regular authors, fucking sucks for them. You have a thing, and that's fucking cool.
It is, honestly, it is hard, because it's like what authors have, and the tradition is to do a, you know, like a reading.
Yeah.
And logically speaking, I've talked to, this is not controversial because other authors will agree with me, an absurd thing to do to promote your book. No one's read the book. You're there to promote a book, and you're going to read part of it, and like that's your entertainment for. It's just, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, having, you know, maybe potentially, just throwing out there, a background for myself that is in other things, I you know, come to this thinking like, well, that seems like a show that I wouldn't want to go to. What's the show that I would want to go to?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's, how it has evolved.
Just seeing that, like, I guess it's a reading, but you're not reading. But like those things, like those events, it's like high energy, and like you don't ever get that in a book reading.
You really don't. Yeah. So it's like that. I'm proud of it, and that's why, you know, I think, you know, when you think about our examples of people, you know, like Pee Wee Herman show or something, like it's like that's a one-man show. You know what I mean? And it's like it's an experience, and it's an expression. Did you watch the documentary?
Yeah, of course.
It's amazing. But the one thing, it's like I related to it so much, like spiritually there was so much. But what was interesting about me is he seemed to think like, okay, I have Pee-wee, and that's not me. And what's interesting about the Chuck thing is, through this experience, pretty quickly actually, I've realized like, okay, this is actually me. This is actually a part of myself that I don't get to express that often. If anything, I think without the mask is more of a character than I am now. Like, I think who you're talking to is the most honest version of myself.
Oh, whoa.
Oscar Wilde said, give a man a mask and he'll tell you the truth. And so it's like, I really think that the only thing that I like, it's not, I didn't even disagree, because it's his journey. But when I saw it, he does say that, like, oh, and then it was weird that no one knew the real me. They only knew Pee-wee. Wow. And when I was watching, I thought, gosh, I wonder if he realizes, I don't want to speak for him, but part of me is like, are you sure about that? Are you sure? Because maybe everyone does know that. Maybe you don't even know that that's the real thing. And like I said, this is a big maybe, because I do not want to speak for another artist that way, you know, but for my journey, if that was me, what my discovery has been is like, oh no, this is more me than the other version, because I'm on the autism spectrum and everything, and I'm very good at masking. So when I'm just walking around talking to buckaroos, like it is a performance already. It's performing as a neurotypical person. I put on this mask, I come here, and it's like I am so much more free to just like be myself. I don't know.
Well, I wonder because let's say Andy Kaufman,
Yes.
I wonder if he was, and I think he's probably like the king of it. I wonder if he was like that. Like, would you let's say you were his partner and you like wake up and you're getting breakfast and it's like some fucked up thing,
Yes.
like an event.
And everything that I know, because I love Andy. That's as far as like my big influences, like Andy Kaufman. Possibly David Byrne from Talking Heads is probably number one, but like Andy Kaufman. Wow. It's funny, all my influences are not writers, but they're these other things. But like Andy Kaufman for sure. What was so brilliant and what's amazing about kind of his life and his legend is that I feel like outside of like his maybe 2 or 3 closest friends, we'll never know the answer to that, which is kind of amazing, because they'll probably tell you that he did.
Yeah.
But we don't know if they are kind of telling the thing. I will say, for my own credit, and I do think about this a lot, I think most people assume that I come into like my publisher's office and we all chat, and then I'm like, oh, and it'll be funny when I put on the mask. My publishers, everyone working there, I do meetings in this. I come to the office wearing this. They will forever, when I am long gone in 50 years, if there is ever a documentary, they'll be like, no, Chuck came into the office and he ate spaghetti up under his mask and stuff, because I really do. Like, anyone listening to this might think, oh, old Chuck trotted in and then put on the mask, and like, you guys were out there, and I walked up in the San Diego heat with this. So I mean I've had meetings with lawyers that wearing this, you know what I mean? So I do think about that in the Andy sense of like, I do love him, and I love him seeing the performance is outside of the frame. So I think he would have done it, and I'm gonna do it.
The off switch isn't really a viable entity.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
There was only one time the Locust did that. We had an interview with this Japanese publication in Del Mar, and we went to meet this person at this hotel, and we arrived in uniform and did the interview and left in uniform, and it was such a, because normally we would have our meetings like Anti knew what we looked like, it was whatever, but this person, and I don't know why we chose to do that, we're just like, let's see what happens. And it was, the reaction that we got from them was like, what the actual fuck, you guys are like doing this thing. But again, this is like, the internet existed but was much different. It wasn't like now where it's just like everything is just like, so I do admire what you've accomplished, because we kind of shit the bed, and it was like our reaction to wearing masks was not necessarily the same as yours. Ours was a reaction to people shitting on us for our street clothes and our hair.
Okay.
Yeah, people were really mean to us, and we're like, fuck you, we're a band, and you keep talking about the way we look, we're just going to look ridiculous, and then that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So there was like a backlash to something else. So I think that like maybe I wish I could have achieved what you did, and I think that it holds so much more value, because going to a meeting like this is incredible.
Yeah.
Rolling up like this is incredible. 'Cause we had some of our friends from In Decline, who are like a activist group, show up, and one of them wore a mask, but he didn't wear it into the thing. And then the other person we had to blur out. But it was very interesting that like I know them in real life. So if I, I'm like, you're the guy or whatever, that does all the illegal stuff. So
that's very funny.
Yeah. I guess that's different, because they're trying to like not go to prison.
Well, for me, there's a lot of reasons. There's like artistic reasons, of course, but there are, because I am so like politically vocal and stuff. Like I get a lot of death threats, and I could be tracked down. So part of it is that part of it is like safety for political stuff. The other part is, I think it is powerful in the way that you said, to just like to almost become a symbol, I guess, for to not have any sort of the human things. Like the amount of times that I will do a reading and someone will come up to me and hug me and like say something in my ear, really personal to them, and then say, I've never told anyone that ever.
Whoa.
And I think it has to do with like in therapy, for like kids, a lot of times if they can't really find their voice, they can find a voice through a puppet. So like you'll have these puppets and stuff. Becoming a symbol is incredibly powerful. So part of me like really likes to keep it there, and not cross over. The other thing was, because I see this as an honest expression of myself, like my autism, part of that is like I'm really regimented. Everything is like in a lot. It's almost like borderline what Buckers think of as OCD. And I had so much body strain and stuff that I had chronic pain from that. I was going to the emergency room. I had chronic pain for like 3 or 4 years. My body was clenched so tight from like masking and stuff. And when I started to go out as Chuck and do this, my pain very slowly started to go away because I could relax and like not mask so much. Like I said, this is kind of the more honest version of myself. My pain started going away. And so once my pain was gone, part of me keeping it a secret was super, super important, because I was worried that if those two things crossed, that my pain would come back. It was literally life or death, because I was like, okay, if my pain comes back, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to live on painkillers? Or like, I just, it was like so bad that, and now that I've been doing it for a long time, I've realized like there have been kind of moments that things cross over. I have to tour all the time. So like, my manager who I fly with, I'm not going through TSA like this. So there are a couple of people now that like I can kind of do that with and stuff. But for a very long time, I was so strict because I just didn't want my pain to come back. I thought I would reveal it, and then the next day I'd wake up and it would just, the nightmare would return. And very slowly, I've like opened that very cautiously, and so far so good. So
have you had any problems where like, well, a good example is one time the Locust was on this TV show in New York, and we were taken out from the venue with our uniforms on, and it was a really stupid interview, and so we said fuck this, and we jumped out of this cab and we were running down the street, and we were running down Wall Street actually, and didn't really know, we were just running back to the venue.
Oh yes.
And so like right when we got to the corner where the venue is, all these FBI agents roll up on us, guns pulled. And they're they're like, what are you doing with these masks running through New York?
That's you know what? I'm so glad you said that, because it's like my worst nightmare. Yeah. And I tell that to buckaroos on like my touring team and stuff. And they're like, you don't need to worry about that. They're being kind. They're keeping me from worrying. I worry about that a lot. So the one thing that I do to avoid that is I always have like my tour manager or manager, whoever's with me, go to the location beforehand and say there's going to be someone showing up in a mask. And like give them a warning, because I don't want someone to like, if I walk through the door of even just like a restaurant, like, I don't want to, it's not my intent to scare people. So I just kind of go out of my way to do that.
Interesting.
But as far as like me getting into trouble with it really hasn't happened. There was one thing I was supposed to be like, I was the featured guest at like the guest of honor at the Texas Library Association's big conference, and like a couple weeks before they rescinded my invitation. Where in Texas was that? My God, San Antonio.
Okay,
I think.
All right, yeah.
But it was I was like, wow, Texas. Yeah. Okay, I'll give a talk at your thing. And then 2 weeks before they said, Chuck is not allowed to show up with a mask, and he, sent out this thing. They were like, well, he can be unmasked. There was so much like we could spend another like 2 hours talking about this event of like why they would invite me and then try to get my personal information.
Holy shit.
It was, well, they just wanted me to show up without a mask. They're like, you're disinvited. And then we're like, my publisher, thankfully I have a publisher that really supports me. That's kind of amazing that this, they're one of the big five, and they'll go to bat for me.
Yeah.
So they were like, he's not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. There was all this stuff behind the scenes. And then they rescinded my invitation. And a bunch of people, like The Advocate, picked it up, and I did a big post online about it. And then, of course, 2 days later, like, wait. Oh, Chuck, come back. We're sorry. And then, but out of principle, I said, no, I'm not going. Actually, what I did was, a bunch of other authors were like notable. T.J. Clooney's like another queer author. Mark Oshiro. They didn't do the conference. They were like, we're going to quit in solidarity with Chuck, and then we booked a venue down the street and had our own event the night of the conference.
That is amazing.
So, but that's about as close as we've ever gone to like someone being like, you can't have the mask.
Yeah.
Or
Wow.
like that.
But again, like we're using this larger umbrella of art. Like it's your art. Who the fuck can tell you?
It's wild.
Yeah.
And it's also like, if you look at this conference, like there's like, like I don't think they were actually furries, but like mascots there, like like for the Texas Public Library and like a whatever, like a chipmunk out whatever.
Yeah.
There's photos of this on the website. Like clearly you can cover your face and go into this building, but they were like, nope, you can't do it. You're the guest of honor, but we're not. And it was just this whole thing, but even that was like, and I don't know if you feel this way as someone who appreciates like performance outside of just that and activism or anything. That's just like, it's so exciting to me because the second that happens, I'm really not so much disappointed as I'm like, wow, what a great opportunity to prove love. Like what a moment to like create something. I mean, I don't know. You tell me, you getting the FBI pulling guns on you probably didn't feel great at the time. It was probably terrifying, but you're telling this story here and you like have that piece. Like what it became is
I
like,
didn't die. So that
you
was
didn't
cool.
die.
Yeah.
And so for me, some of these bad things that happen, I do come away with them thinking like, wow, what a beautiful piece of art that just got made right there.
Oh, I love that you took that and flipped it and made it art, because it is really a thing. Because art is like, it's like using the word punk, I guess, but even more subjective. It could be whatever you want. I don't know.
Yes.
Like Gigi Allen taking a shit and throwing it at people. Is that art? I mean, it could be,
Yes, it is. It is both art and a biohazard. Both.
I mean, I don't mean like art, like something I want to go hang on my wall, obviously.
No,
but,
I agree.
But it is like
it is all art.
everything
It's all art. It's all expression. It's all creation, and tapping into that and taking responsibility for that and being like, the things that I do are gonna affect different things. Like, let's get up and like let's use that. Like there is power. It can be so daunting right now to just think like nothing's worth it. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I think that like the toxic positivity way of looking at it is for me to show up and be like, well, I'm here to prove love and everything does make sense. What I try to do is to show up and be like, you know what? You're right. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of awful right now. It's been awful for a while, but like even within that chaos, we can still get up and prove love and like do something with this incredible power that we have. And that is way more powerful because like love shines brightest in the dark. Like it's like if we were out here proving love on a comfortable sunny day when everything was going great, like really what is that worth? Like we are blessed with the ability that everything that we can do right now is like we're at like a 10 times multiplier right now. It's like every single moment that you can create something beautiful, that you can put joy into, or that you can protect someone through activism, raise money, donate, whatever you're doing, that's like in times like this, it's like so potent.
I think you just nailed it. That's fucking crazy. And we're back. Thank you, Chuck Tingle, for being on our podcast.
Yep.
That might be our first author that we've had.
Adam.
Oh, yeah. Well, Adam's like episode 2. Yeah, fuck, I forgot all about that one. Anyhow, it's rad to have him on here. I hope you're psyched on that conversation and maybe check out his stuff if you haven't already. If not, you should. He's a good human being. And with that being said, we have a compilation that just came out, Cult and Culture compilation album. You can get it on 31G's Bandcamp. Highly suggest checking out. It supports this stuff that we do. And I don't know, it has a bunch of our friends and some of our bands on it, and it should be something that people check out.
Yeah.
Awesome artwork, looks killer. Anyhow, Cult and Culture Podcast on Bandcamp. We appreciate you, all of our sponsors, all of our friends, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Like,
Thank you.
Cult and Culture is a Ruinous Media podcast proudly sponsored by Earthquaker Devices, Heartwork Coffee, 3110 Printing, Kindred, Smashed Plastic Record Pressing, and San Diego Food Shed.
Planet B.